Alright, this is going to be a video of this 44-inch Hampton Bay brand Midili ceiling fan I got at the Habitat Restore. I got it because I volunteered there, and what I do for them is clean up and fix fans and lighting they receive by donation, make them more presentable run than how they originally were. Now this one basically just needed a bit of assembly because it was 100% new in box and required no cleaning or anything else of the sort. Anyway, first I'm going to talk about Hampton Bay as a company. They're a Home Depot brand that makes all kinds of furnishings and hardware for around the house, mainly focusing on ceiling fans and lighting. However, to actually make the ceiling fans for them, they chose several different manufacturers. This one is actually made by King of Fans, and I'll go into further detail about that later. The Midili series of fans was available in multiple colors. This one is the matte white version. It was also sold in brushed nickel and I believe also espresso. However, those two versions are a lot less common here in Canada than they are in the United States. Alright, I think it's time to demonstrate this now. And I'm going to start with the light kit. See if that works. It uses two 40-watt incandescent candelabra-based bulbs. I'm not using energy-saving fluorescent ones because I didn't have any that were dimmable. As you see, this has a dimmer function. Back to full brightness. And I'll turn that off. And now I'm going to turn the fan on and start with the high speed. Put the remote control back in its holster. And it does have a bit of a startup hum to it, but once it gets going, it does quiet down. In terms of airflow, it's actually really nothing too impressive, especially comparing to my 44-inch Hunter Coastal Breeze Plus. That's really definitely a lot more powerful than this, even though it's actually the same size. Now, if anyone wants to know the exact information about how fast the fan goes, how much air blows, that kind of thing, it can all be found in the description below, because Hampton Bay, as with most of their fans, was kind enough to include that information in the instructions. Surprisingly, even though the blades are actually not in perfect alignment, it is pretty stable, even though it's just temporarily mounted. Alright, now I'm going to go to medium. It still pushes some air, I guess, although, like I said, it's really nothing too impressive. And finally for low, which I'll show with the lights on. So you can see both running at the same time. And there we go. I'll turn everything off. And slow the fan down. Now I'm going to talk about some general information on this. This is probably one of the worst reviewed ceiling fans on Home Depot Canada's website. I've seen tons of reviews saying that it's incredibly hard to install, especially the remote part. And to be honest, from my experience, I really didn't find that was the case. In fact, this is probably one of the easiest remote fans I've ever installed. Everything fit really nicely into the canopy. I did actually have to readjust the mounting bracket a couple of times, just due to the fact that it's mounted temporarily, and this is not an ideal setup. However, other than that, it really went up with no hassle. There is one little thing I have to complain about though, and that is that almost every single blade screw did strip, so that is a valid point that people were complaining about. However, I can't really say I can complain about much more, other than the fact that this fan is actually pretty low quality, as a lot of the parts are pretty flimsy. Anyway, now I'm going to talk about the pros and cons. I like the fact that the fan is pretty versatile. It does offer reversible blades. One side is white, the other side is light maple. I'm using the light maple side just to make it a little bit less plain. It's also less common to see this fan with this side of the blades facing down. Another thing I really like is the fact that it could be downrod or flush mounted. As you can see, I'm using it with the downrod setup. However, if you take off this little coupler and secure the canopy directly to the fan, that would be flush mounting, which is good for lower ceilings. And finally, the remote control is definitely pretty convenient. However, that's also at the same time a con, because I was actually having to, when I first installed this, I had to fiddle around with it a couple times because it wasn't being the most reliable thing in the world, as with a lot of fan remote controls, I find. And right now for the cons, like I said, this is definitely a cheap fan. I noticed that King of Fans generally tends to produce pretty low quality products in my opinion, most of them having thin metal and undersized motors. For instance, this one has a lot of metal parts, so you can see the whole, well, pretty much half of the housing spins with the blades, and there's really only a tiny motor in there, so no wonder it's not blowing much air. And finally, the two 40-watt candelabra bulbs are not hugely dim, but I think they probably could have put 3 instead, and that definitely would have been brighter and more functional for larger rooms. Overall, I'm probably going to have to give this 3 stars. Would I recommend it? Probably not, just due to the lack of quality. However, if you do like the look, and you have $100 to spare, it might be an okay fan, but I would probably choose something a lot better quality. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and there's lots more to come. Anyway, I guess that's it.